Hello and welcome to a made for YouTube video. This is Polar's Fight Club. I am Polar and we're going to talk about macros on the game World of Warcraft. First, there's a couple things you're going to need. You're going to need to probably have your World of Warcraft game open and playing off to the side or minimized, or else you're going to have to take some notes on this. You are going to need pen and paper. I'm going to go over some basics on this video, and I do understand there are other videos out there that deal with macros and how to use them and so forth. I would suggest you leave those videos alone because the majority of them are pure garbage, and the majority of them are just about you copying and pasting a macro and not understanding what the hell it does. In this video, we're going to go over everything. We're going to go over the basics. You're going to understand what the macro does, because if you do not understand the macro, you cannot make a macro. So, first things first, pick a character, and I want you to write down on a piece of paper with pen, not on your computer, because we're going to be going back and forth on the programs. I want you to write on a piece of paper your rotation. Now, for beginners or noobs out there, if you don't know what a rotation is, a rotation is the abilities and spells that you use. That also includes your trinkets or anything that you pop that has a cooldown, anything at all that helps you with your DPS, your healing, your tanking skills, whatever. So in other words, if you have a bunch of abilities on your bar and you're pressing 1 3 1 2 1 4 1 6 1 4 1 7 1 3 1 6, that would be your rotation. A rotation is the basic word for every ability that you are going through. So the majority of WoW players already know what a rotation is. So just for the noob's sake out there, that's what a rotation is. First of all, I want you to open your spell book, and I want you to write down all of your abilities that you use on your character in order of your rotation, because you're going to need this for your macro. So that's the first thing you need to do. Okay, so let me go ahead and give you an example of a rotation. Opening up World of Warcraft and looking at my character Polar, who is a druid. He is a guardian tank. His rotation is the following abilities: growl, lacerate, thrash, mangle, lacerate, thrash, maul, lacerate, thrash, maul, lacerate, and thrash. Now that is my rotation without the pulverize ability in there. A rotation, again, as explained, is the moves that you use and the moves that you do. And the words that I just gave you of all those abilities, that is Polar's rotation, again, without pulverize. So when we're making a macro, you need to know your rotation. Okay, that's the first thing. So again, Polar's rotation is growl, lacerate, thrash, mangle, lacerate, thrash, maul, lacerate, thrash, maul, lacerate, and thrash. And again, that is the entire rotation without the ability pulverize. Now we're going to put pulverize down on a piece of paper for Polar down on the bottom. Why do we do that? Because I want you to find in your rotation there's usually one move or two that every player, that every tune, that every class and spec has, that either has a effect that you have to have before you can use that ability. And for pulverize, I have to have 3 lacerates on the enemy before using it. Find your move that's like that in your rotation. If you don't have a move, another example is on the rogues. Once they get the stacks, they have the ability to do that. I can't remember what it's called, but that last final effect where they take away all the stacks and they do a massive amount of damage. That is the move that you would want in your rotation. If you do not have a move where it says that you can only do this move if so and so and so is done, such as for a holy paladin, you have to have so many holy marks before using it. If you don't have a move like that, then find a move in your spec that has a long cooldown, such as 10 seconds or 14 seconds within your rotation, and mark that on the very bottom of your piece of paper as the long CD move. Okay, so your piece of paper should read one ability after another ability in your full rotation, and then at the bottom of it put the long cooldown ability, or the ability that has a specific cause and effect at the bottom of the page that says long cooldown ability. Okay, now you're going to need this for your macro later on, and again I'll explain all this, and I hope this helps. I'll explain all this as basic as I can, but you need to understand the macro and the commands, not just copying and pasting, and there's reasons for that, and you'll get to that as you learn new moves or you change your spec, because then everything changes. Or if Blizzard adds new moves to your character or takes away moves, you need to know to delete those out of your macro or else add those into your macro. So again, for Polar, his rotation is Growl, Lacerate, Thrash, Mangle, Lacerate, Thrash, Maul, Lacerate, Thrash, Maul, Lacerate, Thrash, and then at the bottom I have Pulverize as that one long cooldown, or that ability that one effect needs to take place before it hits. And again, for Pulverize, I cannot use it until I have 3 stacks of Lacerate on an enemy. So, what does this look like? I'll go ahead and show you really quick what this looks like in game. As you can see, there's Polar, and I have my macro open. Don't worry about the way that it's written up. We'll go with that here in a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and show you what the macro looks like. My macro is set down to the ability 1. So all I have to do once I go in bear form, because again Polar's a guardian, all I have to do is press 1 over and over and over and over. And here I go. I'm constantly pressing 1. And if you watch the enemy, he's getting dots and bleeds on him. And all I'm doing is pressing 1 over and over and over again. Now this is a named level 97 elite that is wandering around in Spires of Iraq. And all I'm doing is pressing 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 over and over. And it's going through his full rotation. When one move has completed, the next move lines up and Polar does it. And this is what a macro does. So all I have to do is just keep pressing 1. There's bleed damage on the enemy and then he dies. And I've probably used Pulverize probably about 5 times in that fight. Okay? So that is what a macro should look like. Okay, so far in this video, we've went over what a rotation is. You got to see the rotation in action, and I know that I'm talking a lot in this, and some of you may be a little bit aggravated over that, but I have to go from the most basics in this class so that anybody can understand this video. So I do apologize if you think I'm talking too much and explaining simple things. So again, so far in the video, you should know what a rotation is. You should already have a piece of paper with your tune's rotation written on it beside you. You've already seen Polar in the video do his rotation, and as I explained, all I did was press 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and you got to see the mob go down. So far that's what we've covered. So let's go ahead and translate your piece of paper of your rotation and how it should look on your macro. So go ahead and get into the game if you're not already in the game. And what I want you to do is you are going to type /macro in the chat. This will open up your macro, and we're going to go ahead and walk you through it. Okay, you should already have the macro command open. If you don't, again, type /macro, M-A-C-R-O. On the screen, I have an example, and this is on how to create your new macro. Now, what you're going to do after you've already created your image and you've already clicked new macro and then picked your image for that macro, you are going to type /cast sequence. There's no space in there. So you have to type cast sequence with no space. It is absolutely important that you do this word for word the way that it's listed on this picture example here for you. Where there are spaces, you put spaces. Where there are commas, you put commas. And where there are no comma, you do not put a comma. If you screw this up one letter, the macro will not work. So again, the first thing you do is / cast sequence space reset equals 10 space. Now let me explain what the cast sequence reset 10 does. First of all, you can put any number in there. It doesn't have to be 10. It can be 3. It can be 8. It can be 15. I would go with the higher number for several reasons, and I'm going to explain what this does, because if you do not understand what cast sequence reset does, then there's no sense in even watching this video. Cast sequence reset resets your macro if you do not press the button that your macro is attached to in that many seconds. In other words, we've put up here cast sequence reset equals 10. So if you do not hit the button that you have connected to that macro to in 10 seconds, then it resets. What this means is, you can see the example of first ability, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. If we attach the macro button to the number 1, and if you press the 1 button 3 times, then you will have done your first ability, your second ability, and your third ability. You will not do the fourth ability unless you press 1. However, after that third time of pressing 1, if you pause and you wait at least 10 seconds before hitting 1 again, then it resets. And if you press 1 a fourth time after waiting 10 seconds, you will not do the fourth ability, you'll do the first ability again. Now, the reason that we have a cast sequence reset is for several reasons. One of the reasons that you have the sequence number so high, which right here it's 10 seconds, is because if your first ability is on a cooldown of 8 seconds, then what this does is it protects you on that macro. Let's say that first ability is a cooldown of 8 seconds, alright? And it's the only time in this macro that you see that ability. Well, if you have your reset set to 5, so it says cast sequence reset equals 5, and yet your first ability is a 6-second cooldown, then if you kill an enemy by completing the entire macro, it's going to go back to the first ability. Because after the macro is done with its last ability, which in this case is the 6th ability, it will go back to the first ability. But it can't do that if the ability is on 6 seconds and yet your reset is on like 3. So in other words, you'll slam through a bunch of moves and then your character will pause because he or she is waiting on the cooldown for that first ability to kick in, which means you're going to be pressing 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 and your character is not going to be doing nothing, because what's happening is you're trying to use an ability that the cooldown is not refreshed on. And this is hypothetically, as an example, if that first ability has a 6-second cooldown and if your cast sequence is reset on 3. I hope you understand. If you don't, you're just going to take my word on it. What you want is you want to find your first, second, third, and fourth ability. Whatever the cooldown is on any of those first 4 or 5 moves, whatever the highest cooldown is, that's what your reset should be set at. The majority of the moves on most of the tunes don't have a cooldown of 10 seconds or higher. For most moves, you will have 1 or 2 moves where you do have a high cooldown of 8, 9, 10, or even more seconds, and that move needs to be on your long CD move. It does not need to be in the first ability, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth ability as shown here. You should already understand that. If you don't understand what your long CD move is, go back to the video. I've already explained that. Your long CD move should not at all be in your rotation of your first ability, second ability, third ability, fourth ability, fifth, sixth, so on. Now, okay, so cast sequence reset, what that does is it resets your macro according to not touching and hitting the button that is triggered to that macro within that many seconds. For this, we're using 10 seconds. 10 seconds is a great example. So please just type in cast sequence spacebar reset equals 10. Now there is no space between reset, the equal button, or the 10. There is absolutely no space in those 3 words and letters. There is a space after you do the number. So if your number is 10, you got to hit the space bar, and then you are going to type in the first ability. Now if you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to open your spell book. The first ability on your rotation, you got to put it in. If your ability is 2 or 3 words and it has spaces between it, that is exactly how you type it out. Okay. Let me give you a good example. Let's say you do I don't know, Hammer of Justice would be a good one. The Hammer of Justice on a Paladin is 3 words, so there is spaces between that. Now when you have typed in your first ability on your rotation, you have to have a comma at the end of it, and then a space bar, and then type in your next ability. So where it says first ability, second ability, third ability, fourth ability, fifth ability, and sixth ability, on this example, yours will have your actual ability names on there. Now if you have less than 6 abilities, that's fine. If you have more, that's fine. Type them in, and as I said, after every ability you have to put a comma and then a space and then the next ability. The last ability on your macro does not have a comma or a period. I'm going to repeat that. The last ability does not have a comma or a period. As the example shows, the 6th ability does not have a comma or period at the end of it. If you put a comma or a period at the end of it, you will screw up the macro. What you will do at the last ability is you will hit the enter button, and that will bring down your mouse bar, and then you're going to type in cast space bar, and then you're going to type in the name of the move that you have associated with your rotation, that is the long CD move. Okay, now in case this is confusing you, I'm going to show you one more time what Polar's macro looks like as an example, and you'll see where it has cast sequence reset. You'll see the abilities with the commas after them and the space bars, and then the next ability and so on, and at the bottom you will see it says /cast pulverize. Now for Polar, pulverize cannot be used unless I have 3 lacerates on the enemy. Now you'll notice pulverize is not in my rotation above with my cast reset. Pulverize is the long CD move. And again, the way it works is Polar's just going to constantly go through that first rotation, and then whenever he has put 3 lacerates on an enemy, the pulverize will have lit up because now it's ready to use, and within the rotation, wherever it is, whether he's on the first move, the second, the third, the fourth, as soon as that long CD move is active and you're hitting 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, because that's what we're going to attach this to, is the number 1 key, your long CD move will pop. Okay, I don't want people thinking that the long CD move only pops after the 6th ability. A lot of people read that wrong. No, it will pop whenever it is ready. So that's why you put the long CD move down there. Okay, so again, look at Polar's example, and then look at the example of how you should be writing the macro. Now I hope this is easy for you to understand. Again, cast sequence has to be spelled the way it is, no spaces. Then there is a space at the end of it. The word reset, the equal bars, and then 10. And then I want you to spacebar again and type in your first ability, comma, spacebar, your second ability, comma, spacebar, and so on. Now, I want to say this. I don't want anybody taking this literal. I don't want to get in-game messages and whispers from people who've watched this video and they're upset because it's not working and they don't know why. If you are typing in the literal word, first ability, second ability, third ability, you're not getting it, okay? Don't type in those words, all right? Those are placeholders for whatever your move is. So again, we're going to switch back and forth between the examples of how it should look and what it looks like on Polar. Yours is going to look completely different unless you're a Guardian Druid and you're within the same patch and Blizzard has not taken away moves or added moves. If you're a Guardian Druid, then yes, your rotation and macro will look just the way it does as the example of Polar's.